This is the Top Lofty Lounge. We're in for a smooth show for you today. Oh yeah, baby. In 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, baby. Yeah, here we go. In 11, 10, 9. Oh yeah, baby. Here we come. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Top Lofty Lounge, episode 48, Conversations for the Elevated. Welcome to all my fellow snobs out there in Snobland. And don't forget our $1 million guarantee. This week on the Top Lofty Lounge, we're going to be talking about fixing failing IPs. Part 2. We spent the whole last episode talking about the 4 big science fiction IPs, and we didn't get to any of the other ones, which is kind of what I really want to do. Everybody can talk about the big 4. I mean, everyone knows what the problems are with them mainly. So now we're going to finally get to the real meat of the thing I would like to talk about. But before we do that, I need to introduce my co-host. He is the Victorinox Compact to my Victorinox Ranger. It's Cam. Say hello, Cam.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. How's your week been, Cam? What you been up to?
I feel that if I had to rate my week, it would have been hectic and kind of filled with silliness, and not in a good way, but not, just kind of nonsense, but not a bad week. You know, it's nothing really bad happened, so kind of a mixed bag, I'd say. But here we are to ease out of the weekend and reset for next week.
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, before we, if you're dealing with silliness, there's one way to help your silliness and ground you for the week coming, and of course, that's with birds fighting. Of course.
I had my own bird encounter. Well, I talked about the one with the bald eagle last week. Yes. But I had some. I was out for brunch today. I'm a big fan of brunch. If you notice that, Pat.
I've noticed that. You keep talking. I went out for brunch. I went.
It's a good time.
Brunch.
I think everybody's life would be better with brunch. Honestly, at least once a week.
I don't see how it could be worse with brunch.
Right. Exactly. There's such a wide array of things. You get what you want, right?
Yeah, that's true. Especially if you like breakfast. You're a big breakfast fan.
That's right. Well, Weatherman says he has a migraine for 4 days. Boy, yeah, no kidding. My God, I feel sorry for you, my friend.
I'm sure bird fighting will help. Birds fighting over seeds, that'll help ease the migraine. Maybe not, but
yeah. Well, these birds that I ran into were busy building nests at this restaurant. So,
really?
Yeah. Up in the signs and stuff, they like digging in there. So,
go ahead.
I was going to say, in home stores that I frequent, there's a lot of birds on the inside of them as well. So apparently they just get in there.
Really?
They stay in there, and I don't know what they eat, but maybe bird seed that's, spilled somewhere or whatever. But
do you guys have, we have a specific home hardware. It's called Home Hardware, actually, I think. And they serve popcorn. They have like free popcorn.
Oh, yeah.
Bag of popcorn. You guys have any of those that do stuff like that?
The big box stores, I haven't seen them do that, but a lot of the smaller places do.
Yeah. So maybe that's what they eat. They'll be fat like pigeons and stuff.
Could be. That's right. DS. Sometimes they're champagne brunches, so they're very fancy.
Ooh, that is very fancy. Ooh, that's fancy for me. Even. Oh my! Oh well.
Today it wasn't so fancy, but anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So you can see, as you can see that from the video you just recorded this earlier. The snow is it should melt by May. It should be melting soon. So up here in Canada land,
the Great White North.
Great White North. North. We should start to see some melting, by May 1st. Hopefully, there won't be, how many times it's snowed on May 1st around here? Too many to count. But hopefully, we'll be, that'll be it. Yeah. So other than that, pretty exciting things in Canada land. Tomorrow there is a some sort of election or something for the leader, and it's been quite a back and forth, and we're really going to find out some interesting things tomorrow, I guess. So,
yeah. So it's actually on tomorrow. Monday is election day.
Monday is election day. We had over 7 million people vote already in advance polling, and yeah, I mean that's pretty high for us. I think that's the highest it's ever been. Though someone told me it was 5 million last time, which I thought was pretty high. So imagine, I mean, you guys have a lot of, America's a lot bigger than Canada is, but we've got shy of 40 million people. Of those, maybe 28 million, 30 million can vote if you take out children. You go from, say, 39 million people. You go take away the children under 18 and immigrants who aren't citizens, etc. So 7 million is a third to a quarter. So that's pretty interesting. Yeah, but we're going to see what's going to happen. It'll be very interesting. I'm going to be watching closely tomorrow because I'm.
Will you know tomorrow? Are the results going to be in tomorrow?
Well, they're supposed to be. I mean, which is when you guys had your shenanigans going on the past couple of things, I was like, what? Like I couldn't believe it because I've done some work in with election, like within the back end, like not political stuff, but with the counting of ballots and how that works and stuff. And I generally know how it works in Canada, and everything's paper ballots. We don't, we count that. You sit there and you count them until you're done. And, it's not that hard. And usually, after the polls close, it'll usually be 2 to 3 hours. And then the official count, the official council, the various groups it doesn't, it shouldn't take longer than that, hour and a half really. But I'm saying 3 hours to give, because the people who are working there, sometimes they're just, they're not good at counting. They're just whoever shows up, right? Who doesn't have a job and says, hey, I'll do this job for a day. So it's not necessarily, it's a lot of retired people and, teenagers who don't have a job, but generally speaking, but they're not necessarily the, people who are super keen at this sort of thing. But it's just, we count them by hand, and it doesn't take that long, usually hour and a half, 2 hours. And then the stuff starts, and you send it to the high thing, to the headquarters, and then they report. But I mean, you'll see, official, we don't get the official results till tomorrow or the day after or something. But the truth is that everyone knows way before, and it's pretty accurate because, I don't know how much you know about elections. I don't know if you ever worked one, Cam, or not. But you know what a scrutineer is, eh? Does everyone know what a scrutineer is?
Well, I think we call them poll watchers or whatever.
Poll watchers, scrutineers, yeah. So they usually work. They usually work for the party, or they are volunteers for their party, and they come and they watch the votes being counted to make sure no shenanigans are going on, and they'll get mad or protest if they don't. But so what happens? I mean, they're there to make sure. Supposedly they're there to make sure that everything's good to go. But what they do is they just watch when you count the ballots, and they write down whatever you count, and they immediately run away and phone their party headquarters to tell them, it was 29 for this guy and 4, whatever. They give them the numbers, so the parties know before the headquarters for each riding. They'll know before, because we won't. If you're counting the things, once you get a number, you'll wait until it's all. Like, I'll wait till I've got all the numbers for the poll I worked at had 5 smaller polls there, right? So it's one building and 5 different groups of people come to that. So I'll wait till I get all 5 of the numbers for all 5. And then I'll phone them and say, I got this number, this number, this number, this number. And then I'm going to, we're going to send you the official packages now. And then they, you send it to them. They get it by, usually about 4 hours afterwards. And then they start ripping them open and counting them or whatever they do. I don't know what happens at that back end. But so the parties usually know a little bit before the official knowledge. But that's about it. It's pretty. I was so surprised when you guys were like, "Oh, we have to stop counting." We're talking. Stop counting. What do you mean? You work till the work is done. You don't get to leave. You're not going anywhere. Can I leave? I'm bored. No, you got to stay. You want to get paid? Stay. But anyway, so we should know they'll know. To be honest, where I live, they'll have the election called by the time the polls close at 7:30 local time, and they, you can find out on the internet, but the news programs will not be allowed to say anything until the polls close, right?
Oh yeah, we had a big issue with that at one
Yeah.
point, and then they supposedly, oh, we're not going to do anything, but they kind of leak it,
Yeah, but the internet is, you can just go on the internet.
Yeah,
So all of a
it's hard to keep
sudden,
under wraps.
so all of a sudden, all the major news, like TV news, they'll be all quiet, and then they'll come on at, as soon as the poll ends, they go, yeah, and then they'll call up the thing because they'll already know, because most of the votes will already be in.
Yeah.
So if I turn on my TV at 7:30, it'll go, we predict this, right? And they've already predicted it before, but they don't say anything because supposedly, if it's 1 minute before, we'll be like, oh no, this guy won, I'm not going to bother vote. That's what they're worried about, right? But
yeah, well, that was, they had a huge thing like that. It was what, in the 90s, I think, where it literally, this was like a national thing where they had congressional races or whatever, and they were basically calling, the end to things before, hours before the polls were closed in the West, and
right.
They did that on purpose, but well, anyway, I guess we don't need to go.
So we have a law that stops that. You're not allowed to. But again, I can go on the internet because they don't know where I'm coming from, and I can just go and look at news sites that are published in Ontario and find out what the story is. But you should go vote anyway. You shouldn't be like, oh, looks like that guy's going to win. It doesn't matter, so I'm not going to vote. Well, you're a lazy slug. It's your job as a citizen to vote, so go vote, right? Except if you're dumb, then don't vote because you're probably too dumb to vote. But anyway, that's enough of that. All right, let's say welcome in the chat. Welcome to Weatherman. Hey, good to see you, Weatherman. Great to see you again. Death Angel Shadows in the chat. Dave is in the chat. Who else is there? Did I miss anyone? That's everybody that wants to post anyway. Everyone else wants to keep quiet. That's good. That's fine. No problem. Your choice. Let's go to let's stop talking about politics and let's talk about good stuff. We have a tool segment, right? Just a quick one. Cam's going to go over some stuff. Cam, you have some things that what is this? You're recommending it, or you just?
Yeah, a couple things. I just we've talked about recent show. We talked about my pocket toolkit, and so I was doing a little tinkering with it. So if you want to bring up the first link real quick.
Shall we bring up the first one? Okay, let me.
Yeah, this is going to be a short segment. So
let me go. Just be short, not too much tools, but a little bit of tools. All right, let's bring up the first tool we have tonight.
Yeah. So one of the, the way I did that toolkit is I said, these are the functions that I want to be able to do. And what's the combination of tools? Because I have a wide variety of pocket tools and access to many more, of course, because, the internet's a thing. But one of the primary tools that I find that I need a lot is to cut wire or zip ties, things like that. And
so whenever you're making bombs or you're illegally kidnapping people and holding them,
no, that would never be the case with me. I'm a law-abiding citizen, and I certainly don't want to harm anyone. Yeah. Anyway, actually, it's for cutting zip ties. You see, not applying.
Oh, right.
But anyway, and a lot of multi-tools have a wire cutter on them, but they're at like any needle nose plier, they're not at the tip. And you could when you're trying to cut a bundle of wire or anything that's held together with a zip tie or a wire or whatever, it's very hard to get to the point to cut if it's behind something. Now if you're just cutting a bare wire off of a coil or something, it's easy, but having the cutter at the tip, as this dedicated cutter that you have on screen shows, is much easier, and getting one small enough that has good capability to cut significantly heavy gauge wire is a bit of a problem. But this one I think might be a viable option, and I have to get this into my pocket and really try it out and everything. Now they're saying 6.5 inches long here on the product dimension. It's not that big. It's only 4 inches long.
Oh, really?
So this is really small. I mean, this thing fits in the palm, not even in the palm of your hand, basically, a little bigger. Anyway, so I'm going to try this one out. I got it this week, and I'm going to see if that works, because I've kind of I I have some EMT shears in there because EMT shears, while not meant for cutting wire, can cut wire. It damages them,
Yeah.
but in a pinch it'll do. But I already have a very nice set of scissors on my Swiss Army knife that I carry, so it wasn't the ideal. It was done for weight and size considerations, and this is more weight, but it's more capability too. So anyway, I'm going to try this one out, and that's just a little update.
Yeah, that's good. Let's see. We say, Michael's in the chat. Welcome back. Welcome, Michael. We will talk about our tools tonight. Yeah, that's for sure. Dave loves the tool. $22, pretty good price. Seems pretty good to me too. I mean, that's American, so that's about $4,000 for us. But yeah. But anyway. Oh no, it's Canadian. $22 is Canadian. Wait a second. Delivered. Looks like I'm on the. Oh no, that's the English. Yeah, I think it's the Canadian. That's Canadian price. So yeah, about $2.50, $2.50 for you guys, something like that. 4 inches, like most men. Michael, I think I think he's trying to put some innuendo in there.
Michael, come on, we're trying to be elevated.
Yeah. I think that's fine. It's no problem. But I think that's some sort of joke about something, but I'm not sure. I'll have to figure that out. And yeah. Weatherman's crafty. Yeah. Oh, well, he's building bombs. Well, that's okay. And don't say the B word. YouTube will come after us. All right. Okay, great. Should we go to the next one?
Yes, please.
Okay, I have to just give me a second here. I got to remove this. This is kind of a bit of a pain in the butt. I thought I could put them all in here at once, but that's no problem. What's next? Let me just check my. Okay, okay, this one. All right, good. Let's pull that up. And here we go. Oh, I like this. This looks cool. I gotta say,
yeah. So this is what Klein Tools is something I've become a fan of in the last few years. They're a very old brand, been around forever, but they've been coming out with a lot of new products, and I think I might have talked about one similar to this before. But basically, this is a screwdriver that has a lot of different bits in the handle. Certainly ones that would cover you for your everyday household kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
But it also has these flip sockets on there, which are the things with the little colored bands. And this one is almost identical to another one that I bought, except they've made a dedicated bit holder on the end of this one. You see the top there, it's got a red, and then where the screw bit is, there's no color around it. That's a magnetic bit holder. And in the other models, they had the 1/4 inch nut driver there was kind of doubling. It has a different position you could put it in. And I guess some people didn't like that, or didn't, I found it wasn't working like they wanted to. So now they've kind of offered this different tip that's, meant to enhance that a little bit.
So there's the bit holder right there opened up, right?
Oh yeah, that's the bit carousel basically in the handle.
Yeah.
But the bit holder I'm referring to is the one that's actually at the tip. That's holding the one you're actively using. And then this one, it flips around, and you can see at the bottom of the portion on the left in the image you're showing right now. There's
this one here, okay, right?
Yeah, that's a 3/8 square drive, so you could use sockets on it. As standard 3/8 sockets.
Right. So this is two,
any size. Yeah. So this is actually not a bad model, just for kind of some general use, especially if you have some 3/8 sockets laying around. To turn different size, hex heads and things like that. Again, the problem with all these things is there are so many sizes, that you could really have quite a large collection. But for the U.S., this is the U.S. sizes on this one. These flip sockets are common for a lot of electrical and plumbing fixtures and things like that. But you can also get different flip socket sizes, which I think I've showed. You could get metric ones, larger ones, and everything, and they would all work on this the same shank there, that is shown kind of at the horizontal on the bottom. So not bad. And this was,
have you tried this one?
I've tried the other one that's very similar to it. I haven't actually used the new one I bought yet, but.
So the only problem I have with these, and you can tell me if some of these sockets, right, they're not tight enough and stuff, but you don't find that. It's, like sometimes they can be a little.
Are you saying they don't fit the hex?
They don't fit properly.
Well enough? I haven't.
You haven't had that problem?
No. But again, there's a lot of metric. It depends on, if you look at a hex screw, you're not sure what it is necessarily at the and if you, especially in the U.S., you might have one that's you think is English units or SAE, and it might be metric, very close, like a 3/8 and a 10 millimeter are very close
Mhm.
to each other, but not exact. So you can get a little bit of play in them, and
Yeah, yeah,
that's not bad if it's just a light screw or something. But if you're putting a lot of torque on it, you could strip those out pretty bad if you don't have a
yeah.
good fit. So anyway,
So
and
you
then
don't. I mean, I would understand if you had slippage in those ones because you're not using the right size. But you found that there's not really any slippage when you use the right size. That's what my sort of
yeah,
concern.
these are pretty good.
All right.
And then
Um,
the next two things we have, you can bring those up if you want.
okay.
Is
All right. Let's get this up there. All right, everyone. Christmas stocking. Yeah, well, that would be good for sure. Similar one. Uh, okay. Good. All right. Let's get the next one up there.
yeah, differential shadow, the torque, security torques. There's a never ending variety of bits out there. It seems. The nice thing with the security torques is you could just carry security torques, and of course works for the regular one as well, as long as you don't have like a super high torque rating on it or something that might not hold up as well with the hole in the middle of it. But I don't think it's gonna be a problem for most things. Okay, where are we at here? Okay, and so the next two things I just happened to notice. There's a YouTube channel called Max Level EDC, good channel, and he posts a lot of sales and things. And I happened to catch this, is the Victorinox Compact is on a pretty good price sale for $39. I think we might have talked about this before, and I mentioned when the sales come up. Normally or list price $59. This is very lightweight but very high functioning for the size. This is one of the ones I recommend for someone everyday pocket carry.
Yeah.
You
So
get the
there's no price on this, but that's because it can't. It's not the bill. It's not available for delivery in Canada. So
okay.
don't
So
don't. I'm sure you guys can get it. No
yeah,
problem.
in the U.S. it's 34% off, so $39.20 is what it's showing right now. And if you go to Amazon or whatever, Victorinox Compact will be it. And then the other one, if you can pull that up.
Okay, you do the other one. Okay, I gotta remove this one first, and this is not the. But anyway,
And
a second here, but I will bring it up in a second. Let me get the right one. Nope, that's the wrong one. There we go. There you go.
okay, so this is the Victorinox Ranger, which I mentioned I had just recently switched to this model, upgrading from the Mountaineer, which is basically it's just adding the wood saw to the Mountaineer. So this is the one that I have as my everyday carry, and it just also happens to be on super sale right now. I got mine for $50, I think, and this one is now listed at $44.03 for 41% off the normal list price of $75. So a screaming deal for a rather significant size. This is a 5-layer Swiss Army knife, which is getting up there in thickness, but not too bad because the saw and file layers are actually kind of thin. So not too bad in the pocket. Great functionality on this one. It packs in a lot of backside tools as well. Like a little chisel and a fine screwdriver. If you want to carry something a little bigger with a little more functionality than the compact, for example, this is a nice model and for a very good price right now.
Yeah, yeah. And again, you know what? You got to remind me next time. I will instead of going on the Canada website, we'll go on the. I've already got it. I've got it automatically set. So when Cam sends me the link, it goes to the Canadian version of Amazon. But we'll go US version next time, so we don't get this whole can't be shipped to your location and all that stuff. It gets the American price. All right. Okay. Sorry. Anything else for that one? Those are the four.
Yep. So
All right.
now we can talk about sci-fi. Oh wait, if we have time at the end, I happen to do something today. I asked Grok, the AI and attached to Twitter, to talk to me about Sci-Fi Snob channel.
Oh, really?
So we could.
What did it have to say? The bots love me. Eh? Robots are our biggest fans.
Well,
Bots love us.
maybe we should save that to the end if we have time.
Oh, there might be. Oh, maybe they said something bad. Oh, yeah. All right. We'll see. Maybe I have to win them back. Maybe.
Maybe.
Holy cow! There is a Swiss champ. I'm
Oh
not
yeah.
sure what you
Well,
mean.
the Swiss Champ is the classic everything model.
Oh, is this the one at the
Um,
bottom here?
is it? I can't.
Was this the here? Let me put it back.
There
Was
might
this
have
the
been
one? I
one.
was just having to go down. And I looked down here. This weird looking. No, that's the Swiss Eagle Premium. I don't know what.
Oh, is the black one the Swiss Champ? I can't
No, the
quite see.
black one, it says Swiss Eagle Premium also, and the one just above it is also Swiss Eagle Premium. Yeah, I don't know what the champ.
Anyway, the
Not
Champ
sure
is
what he's referring
probably
to.
10 layers or something.
Oh, is it? Oh,
Again, like I said,
my
it
goodness.
was the classic everything model.
Oh my.
And it's pretty chunky to carry in the pocket. And there's a few things on there that I don't like. I have one just for the collection, but I generally don't carry that one.
If you fall, it puts a hole in your hip when you. Ouch! I got a giant bruise.
All right. Has a fish
This-
scaler if you want.
Fish scaler. Oh my. Jeez. This champ has a 33 blade or function. Oh, okay. Oh, jeez. All right. Okay. Let's talk about. Shall we get into? We ready to get in? Are we done? Any last
Sure.
tool points or questions?
Nope, we burned almost a half hour without saying anything about
My
sci-fi.
goodness. All right. So let's quickly review what we we talked about last time. We talked about the big four: Star Trek, Star Wars, Marvel, Doctor Who. Let's start. Cam, what was your quick summary, 30 seconds or less on Doctor Who? Don't care, maybe.
Doctor Who was you have to undo the garbage, all this garbage about the origin of the Doctor and everything. That's unforgivable nonsense, in my opinion. So they have to literally wipe it out.
Yeah, I think Doctor Who is unsavable, and we might have to go into hiatus for 10 years and forget whatever happened before they do it. And I don't see, unlike some other IPs, I don't see that they have any desire to fix it or change anything. So
right, they're going deeper and deeper.
Yeah, I think they're doubling down on their,
Yeah.
And my understanding from what I've been following is that this new, it's been 2 weeks, 3 weeks since the latest Doctor Who came out. It's doing even worse than any Doctor Who in the modern era, I guess. So it's it's pretty bad. So I've pretty much written them off. So yeah. All right. Marvel.
Marvel. It's not. My opinion on that one, as I recall, was that they've burned a lot of material, on bad stuff instead of good versions. So that's really the issue. But it's, I think people are pretty forgiving because they had a good foundation of it. So I think if they just stop with the nonsense and get back to telling any good stories with any of their properties, they'd be fine. I think that's one of the easier ones to fix.
Yeah, and I would kind of agree. I mean, I think your main point last week was they keep burning up good material with crap,
Right.
and they burn it up too fast.
Yeah, well, and we talked about Fantastic Four coming out. It's like,
Yeah.
they've heard bad casting, and it's like it's on real shaky ground already.
Yeah.
So, and again, that's a premier property. You can't screw the big ones like that. And then like we talked about, then they're going to do all those not Fantastic Four, all the X-Men and everything, and they're going to jam them into one thing and burn.
Yeah, 'cause they don't
Again,
have patience.
they're so impatient. It's like the long-term thinking is gone now. It's like it's like, oh, rush between failure, and then they're like, oh, quick, we got to do something else to try and make up for the failure. And then instead of saying, okay, stop, slow down, make something good,
Yeah, that was kind of my thought about Marvel too. Is they just seem to be, they've been inconsistent. There's been some things in phase. I mean, most of Phase 4 has been pretty bad, and they're trying to reset with this whole Doctor Doom thing. I don't know if it's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
They need to start, just focusing on good storytelling. Like Phase 1, 2, and 3 were overall pretty good. You've got tons of movies in there, and they're all some are not as good as the others, but even the bad ones are better than some of the crap they put out since.
Yeah.
So
Weatherman's
like
right.
Thor 2, people like Thor 2, and people were like, it's kind of pretty weak, right? But then when you compare that to Captain Marvel or the Marvels or any of the the Eternals or any of this stuff they put out afterwards, you're like, wow, it's freaking Citizen Kane. But anyway, but they seem to be trying. They're doing, it seems to be this sort of push pull between, well, we want you to put more of this stuff in there. and people are like, oh, we got to put this in there. We got to make a movie like this. But so they're kind of going back and forth. It seems like they're trying to do good stuff, but they're sort of being stopped. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Star Trek.
I don't remember what I said about Star Trek, but
Say what you think now.
I think my overall view of that is that they need to uh, really break off between, discard this whole Kelvin universe garbage and get back to, the original timeline of Trek. And if they're going to keep the other stuff, at least say this is separate. Make it very clear that these things do not. They're not the same. They don't cross over to each other. They're completely separate things. One's a reboot. One is the original. That would be sufficient if they then went on to, actually produce content that didn't suck.
Yeah, I mean, like looking at the sort of the whole Kelvin Trek. I mean, I was okay with the first Star Trek movie that they did, that JJ did, I guess. And I was like, okay, well, this is a little different. It's a little darker and stuff. Okay, I'm not 100%, but I mean, let's see where they go with it. They're trying something different. At least give them that, right? And then they just after that, it just became. Is there been a good Star Trek since that first JJ movie? And even then, was that so great?
No, I mean, not since before that JJ movie.
I don't think any of that's pretty good. I mean, the only thing is Lower Decks, which is, I mean, it's not really that funny, but it's at least, I mean, it's not Star Trek. It's making fun of Star Trek.
Well, see and that would have been okay. It would have been okay to have something like that, if everything else wasn't already a joke. It's like you're just doing more of this. It's like someone slaps you around for a joke and then they kick you in the balls for the punchline. It's like, okay, a little too much.
Yeah, no, I agree. But also the other thing, and the thing is that if you watch, I mean, the jokes are mainly callbacks to Trek. But if you watch if you look closely at those callbacks, they're all to the old stuff. Like it's all to TNG and DS9 and Voyager and that kind of stuff, right? It's not to any of the new stuff. It's to all the old stuff, which is kind of interesting.
Sure,
I thought. But yeah. Okay, and last but not least, Star Wars.
Well, we were talking about this a little bit. I didn't watch it, but I understand Andor has veered into some very not Space Wizards for kids material. And I know that you have had the opinion that, there's different things, more adult or whatever, and that's fine.
Yeah,
you can have more serious and maybe,
yes.
but really not in the realm of Star Wars fantasy kind of thing. It's like take your whatever social commentary. Well, it's not even social commentary. It's more like social propaganda, and or whatever the justification was for it. And don't do that. Tell space fantasy stories. That's
I mean, so since the Disney Trek started, or sorry, Disney Star Wars started, there's only been in my view, only two properties which were any of any real worth that I've seen, and I haven't seen. Jason likes the new one, the Star Trek or Star Wars Goonies. I haven't seen that one. It seems more towards kids, but that's. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad, but of the sort of the mainstream, only Andor and Rogue One have been any good. And I didn't think Andor was perfect for the first season. I've only seen the first season, but the second season come out, and I'm going to put a G in front of the word. And apparently, there's a grape scene in there. Now, I always thought the Empire was evil, and they're probably evil enough. They really need to be that evil? Like they're already pretty evil. Even if we made the assumption they were doing that kind of thing, we need to see it.
This opens a can of worms, right?
Yeah,
it doesn't. There's no end to this now.
Yeah,
including stuff. Remember what one of the criticisms I had of JJ is, this is you reach into the past and the idiocy you're doing now destroy something from the past, and without getting while keeping this family friendly.
Yeah.
You can look at a number of situations and go, oh, I guess that was a thing. And that's not where you want to go with this. It's not where you want to put your characters. This is really stupid, absolutely stupid. Like this idiot should get fired, kind of stuff. But well, what am I talking about though? They pissed all over this IP so bad. I guess it doesn't really matter at this point. But just another. I mean, it's like here's the thing. And I was almost to the point, I don't watch Disney Star Wars stuff anymore. And the Andor stuff, again, I was a Rogue One fan, and I've heard good things about the first season. And the second season, I was almost to the point where I'm like, maybe I should watch it. I'm not going to pay for it, but it's like, I could watch it. And it's like, well, you just put me right back to where I was. I'm glad I didn't. Screw off, Disney. You can go to hell.
Well, and the thing is I'm kind of a supporter, right? Because I thought that Andor was a little slow moving in places, and I was like, okay. And some people have challenged me on that, said, oh yeah, but with this scene, this was well done, and this, like, I'm like, all right, maybe I was a little too harsh. And then these first 3 episodes come out, and we have Mon Mothma dancing around to bad techno music, which I don't really, that doesn't really seem to fit with her, what I am with her. And then this scene with the which I haven't seen either. I haven't watched any of it, but it's going to kind of turn me off. I'm like, oh, I was kind of, should I get Disney Plus to watch season 2? What should I
The
do?
answer is no. No, get Disney Plus under any circumstance.
Now I'm like, okay, they had something going, which was Ender was going all right. It was not the greatest, but it was at least better than anything else they put out. And now I need to come back. Maybe I should come back and keep watching it. Now I've kind of lost that.
Yeah, the first inkling of maybe I should think about Star Wars again, and they and
they shoot it
boom.
Down. Okay, so you're saying here they're glorifying dark side weirdos. So is that like, I don't
well that was with the Acolyte, right? It's like
that.
the sexy dark side guy. It's like, go to shut up, my God, these idiots. I can't stand them.
Andor is a good spy show, but it doesn't feel like Star Wars, which is space opera adventure. And I agree, but I think like because the some of the there are a group of us who are in our late 40s and early 50s who grew up with Star Wars. We were 7, 8, 9, 12, 5 years old when Star Wars came out, and so we're still fans of it. And you can do an adult show, and a good sort of spy undercover, the seeds of the rebellion stuff that could be really good. Lots of high tension, and I saw some of that in the first season.
Right? That's the zone that I like.
I like that. I like that style of. I'm kind of going to recommend that to you, Cam. You want to maybe try the first season out just and see what you think. So at least you can, but now if they're going into the second season, they're doing weird stuff.
Well, there's the whole thing. Again, I didn't see it. I saw clips, with Mon Mothma at this ball or whatever they were at. It's like someone says, "Oh, it was like a rave or whatever." It's basically they had these thing where there are all these people wearing ball gowns and things dancing around like these kind of crazy dances. It's like a rave,
a rave thing for rich people.
Right. And okay, that could be an angle they could go with. It's like, yes, the Empire is this spoiled upper class and the hedonism that goes with it and everything. Yeah, exactly. You could do that, and it's like, okay, she's playing in that field now. I mean, she's basically a spy, right? Undercover, insurrectionist. And fine. If you want to do that, that would be okay. Again, I don't know the context of that scene, so I can't say whether it was good or bad. But
she's dancing around. Like maybe she should be standing at the back, looking at this decadence and commenting on it to people. She's a senator, right? At this time, so she is rich, but she's still powerful. But can you imagine going to a rave and having your congressman there and he's dancing at a rave? Well, he's going to sit back and keep his, he wants to appear to be more,
I could see if it was, she's like, yes, she's playing the part of being one of these people,
stupid, and vacuous.
Well, I mean, again, it doesn't have to be that. It because we see it as rave-like. It didn't have to be that. It could have been like, yes, this is like kind of like Logan's Run, where it's like they're all doing all this crazy stuff with all these drugs and everything. It was just part of their society, and you could have made the thing. It's like, yes, the empire has fallen into this hedonistic, this upper class spoiled elite thing where they
Yeah.
do these kinds of things, and it's like, okay, she's playing along in that, and they have some, and maybe they did. Like I said, I didn't see the full context of it, so I think it's possible that could have been okay, but it was also something that is easily clipped and made fun of. So I
Yeah.
guess you failed at that as well.
I mean, she's
Um,
in the video I saw, she's dancing around, waving her arms and going all over the place. Like,
well, and the thing is, she seemed to be by herself.
yeah,
It wasn't
she
like,
had it
oh
with some-
yes, she's not having some repartee with some imperial officer or
yeah,
something.
let's dance, and I will, squeeze information out of you, like some
Right.
sort of French resistance girl within the
Yeah, exactly.
Paris with the Germans. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm all sophisticated, and I'm going to, squeeze some information out of you while I'm talking to you because I am, and there you like me because I am so fancy and whatever. But yeah, it's not doing that at all. She's just waving her arms around and like a crazy person. She looks like a teenager.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let's put these horrible four in the
So
box.
what Star Wars, can it be saved?
No.
No?
Not at this. I think it's so far gone. They would have to wholesale cut so much, and they're never going to do that. It's just not going to happen. So I think it's just not going to happen. I think they're going to continue. They'll try and throw bones to people, and this whole, oh, we love the fans, blah blah blah, and then they'll turn around and slap us in the face again. Well, they can't help themselves.
Yeah, I'm going to be a little more positive. I mean, we've supposedly KK is going to retire in August now. I mean, geez, how many? This is like 5 years worth. I don't know, but maybe when she's gone, they can, Filoni and Favreau and these guys can turn around. I'm not so sure that they're the greatest things in sliced bread that everyone keeps talking about, but I'm on the fence. I'm saying maybe it can be saved. We'll see. Yeah. Okay, just before Seventh have gone for their duties when they handed over all power to the Emperor. Yeah, there's some truth to that. Yeah, for sure. But that doesn't mean she's still a power, a senator and stuff. Like I said, you don't go to your local rave and you see your local congressman going crazy with the kids there.
Oh, I don't know.
I gotta have
sure.
Some
of our congressmen are, pretty.
Even AOC doesn't do that. What else do with free time except party looking for victory? I mean, yeah, that's a good point. Maybe I'm wrong, but people are, yeah. I think Weatherman's talking about Star Wars. It's mostly dead. Needs to rest for a while.
Yeah,
I agree too. I mean, there's nothing. That's nothing. Yeah, I believe KK's an always a wooden stake on her heart. Yeah, I mean, she's been going for 5 years. Like, what the hell? But anyway, all right, we're gonna leave that because we're not gonna get nowhere with that. Okay, Cam, you want to talk about? Let's talk about what you've been burning to talk about, right?
Oh,
saving rock and roll. Do you want to do that first?
Yeah. Well, okay. We could do this pretty briefly because I wasn't impressed by the movie to begin with. There was kind of a tinge of going, well, could this have been better? And a few things occurred to me. In the opening crawl, they basically give away the whole story. Mock is going to.
Before we go into it, let's talk about. Okay, so 2 weeks ago we did our monthly movie night, about monthly, and we did this animated musical fantasy type story, which is kind
Canadian
of like,
furry.
It's kind of a version of a not as popular version of heavy metal. So that's what. Just put it in context to anybody who didn't watch that episode. That's what we're talking about. It's called Rock and Rule. All the characters are little furry animals, which I that was probably a mistake. Should just made them human.
Yeah, that's the first mistake. Yeah, it had no reason for that to be the case.
Well, they started. I mean, I read the background. They started out they were animals, and then slowly became more human as the story, like as they went through the iterations of the story, and then by the end they were. But anyway. So that's what Cam's talking about. Cam was, he was like, he gave me a hard time at the first about you make me watch these crappy movies, but now he's starting to, become, maybe it wasn't so bad.
As I was forced to defend myself the other day on the Babylon 5 retrospective, my frequent complaints are really based on wouldn't couldn't this be better? To improve something in my hopes that things would be better. So I don't just complain for the sake of complaining. And this is an example of that. So again, I didn't really like it, but I started thinking about it. I said, oh, there's a few things I can do. As I was starting to say, they, at the beginning crawl, they basically gave away the whole plot, which was Mock, the antagonist, is going to summon a demon for some reason because his popularity is waning.
He's mad.
And and he's angry and he's going to destroy the world or whatever.
Yeah. Teach him a
so
lesson not to listen to my music.
right. So then what's going on throughout this as you see the protagonists get involved in this, and there's really there's no mystery, there's no nothing, so it's like, why didn't they just change the crawl? And it's like, okay, let you know that he's the antagonist. He's trying to reclaim his, his fame is waning, and he's desperate to change that. And then you see that he has this plot going, but you don't know what the plot actually is. And then
or you say something like the plot is that he wants to find a really good singer, and that singer is going to help him and do his, be better, or some stuff like that.
Right. He's got this plan that, he's looking for this special voice, and that will, allow him to
somehow
complete his goal, that's unstated specifically what it is. And then you go into the story as it was, and you've got this, the conflict between Omar and, my God, I don't remember her name. What's her name?
The girl.
Yeah, the girl.
What was her name? Just say the girl.
Angel,
the main singer.
Right. And so there, it starts out with them that there's this kind of, in band conflict, classic thing between those two, who's the leader of it and who's, the talent and all this stuff. And then Mock comes in, as he did, and starts to lure, she's the voice, and so he wants to lure her away. And then they go into the whole thing. Instead of, he just kidnaps her. It's like, no, he's influenced. It's like, he's telling her what she wants to hear. It's like, oh yeah, you're the talent. You're going to be the big hero. And then there's this reason for conflict between these characters that he's playing on. And then, maybe they get an inkling, they start to, the other, she goes off with him. And you start to get the idea that there's something worse going on here. This isn't just about talent sniping or, exploiting someone for whatever.
Maybe there's a key character that works for Mock and has, leaves and comes to the other protagonists and tell them, oh no, he wants her because of this reason, or
right.
It's something else going on. And they're like, we got to save her.
Right. So, exactly. And then you have this thing, and then she's kind of been duped through this and kind of participating, and then you have the big reveal. Oh my God, this is actually a horrible, he's trying to summon a demon, and you have a reveal, which is something you do in stories, and then you kind of proceed from there, and then they battle it, and song saves the world, and okay, yeah, this typical kind of inspiring reaction, and the heroes win and all that stuff, right? So they barely had to change it. They just had to rearrange when you're finding these things out a little bit, and I think it would have made the story way better. Now maybe other people like to just have everything told to them at the opening crawl, and that's it, but I think that's kind of weak storytelling.
Yeah, I would agree. I didn't really think about that, but when you lay it out like that, I have to agree that that's a better idea just on its face. And how quick was it? Pretty quick to just sort of, hey, spitball this, and just for everyone. Cam's main job is not a writer. He is not a.
Yeah,
work with Hollywood. It's not his job to do this.
Well, and that's the funny. Well, first of all, Weatherman did mention it's he has a plot. It gets out of control. Maybe he was trying to do this thing with the demon that it's like, oh, because I'm going to get more popular instead of I'm just going to destroy the world. And like you said, it does get out of control, and then it's this whole thing.
So he's not as evil as we thought.
Yeah, have some nuance to it.
Yeah.
But and you said about you just mentioned about how we're not writers, and someone was asking that the other day as well, and. No, but what I am is a consumer of these things. It's like, and I'm not saying that anyone said this, but it's like, well, I look to you do better. It's like, okay, idiot, listen, I'm not calling any of our audience an idiot. Like I said, no one actually said this, but this is the kind of an argument someone makes all the time. It's like, well, I'd like to see you do better. It's like, I'm doing better as a consumer of this. I'm telling you what I like and don't like and what works and doesn't work. I don't have to be a writer to have read something and say that doesn't work as a story. And, again, I'm just throwing an idea out here, and Weatherman threw another idea that's similar. And it's like, okay, well, maybe that isn't the exact thing. Maybe there's a problem with that too. But in creating things, that's why you have editors who say, well, let's question this, let's do this. And we know from reviewing this that they didn't have a plot to begin with. It was thrown together.
And let's face it, like there are like I'm Cam is more on the right side of the brain stuff, and I'm more left side type. My area was in the humanities and that sort of thing. So I'm not a writer, but I've done a little, taken some courses in this and that kind of thing. And there are basics to storytelling. And if you are a writer, you should all know what these basics are. And, and plus all these basics to storytelling are based on how we are as a person. Like an average person can look at two stories and go, and just, we have this cultural and, ingrained in us from thousands and thousands of years that we can recognize that this is a good story and this is not as good or a bad story. And we just sort of feel it in our bones because of our culture. It's not it can be intellectual, but it's kind of subconscious too. So, the average person can look at a story and go, hey, that's dumb and it's stupid, which is why, people go, when characters, do things completely out of context, the character is one way the whole time. And then some guy goes, hey, let's go do this. And which is exactly the opposite of your character. Okay. And you're like, okay, that's bad storytelling. We know that guy would never, never act like that. So you don't have to be a writer to know that story sucks. You feel it in your bones. Yeah. So, if these guys can,
it's like
writer and not feel it. It's kind of weird.
Imagine if you go to a restaurant and you are served something and it's, you're getting spaghetti with marinara sauce and it tastes like something not marinara sauce. And you say, hey, there's something wrong with this. Imagine someone saying, well, are you a chef? Could you do better? No, idiot. It's just not right. It's obvious, anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly. All right. Okay, good. All right. So let's get into now. Okay. We've only been going for 52 minutes and we're finally into the rock and roll was part of what we were going to talk about anyway, but we're finally into these other IPs. All right, Cam, do you want to go first? Pick an IP and we'll talk about it real quick. And if it's, good, bad, how we would fix it, that kind of thing.
Oh.
Cam's Star Trek story. I don't see a Star Trek story. Maybe it's, maybe at the end. How about, you're the one, I think, is that, did you write
I wrote a Deep Space. I wrote a Deep Space Nine script way back when.
Cool. We'll say that to the end. All right.
Well, certainly, maybe not even this week.
We might go a little long this week.
Maybe a special time when we could go over that. A special episode.
Get you and Jason on. Each give you a half hour to talk about your.
There you go.
All right.
I don't know. Just grab one from the list. I don't care which one.
I sent you a giant list.
I don't look at your emails or messages.
I don't even. I don't read my emails. Well, people that send them to me, but I expect everyone to read mine. All right. Well, let's talk about. I think this is the one. Okay, The Matrix. Start with that.
Okay. Boy, I think you. Yes, look at the Animatrix and do that.
Okay, you know Instead, what? That was my first three Matrix movies. First Matrix movie, good. Second two, okay. The end of the story, etc.
Yeah.
The second and third one. Fourth Matrix movie, bad.
Yeah, I didn't see the fourth one.
I did. It took me like 3 watches to watch. I kept falling asleep and going, what the hell is going on? What is this garbage? They advanced it a little bit, but nothing seemed to change. And I was like, what the hell? It seemed like the other, like the they did the usual. It seemed to me, maybe I could be wrong, but it seemed to me that, Neo failed, right? And everything just carried on the same, and it was some sort of dream, or he was tricked, or he never left his little pod. It was all it was kind of a dream. I'm like, what the hell's going on? What? Anyway, he was he was a game designer in the 1990s, developing a Matrix game, which is kind of funny because they did have a Matrix game, right? Anyway, I was like, this is garbage. How to solve it? Yeah, you go back. I agree. If anybody has the Matrix series, the first three, the Animatrix is a collection of about 10 small, short, animated stories within the Matrix universe. And I'll give you the first one. First one is called "The Flight of the." Do you remember? Have you seen it?
I've seen it, but it's a long time
The
ago.
flight of the. I can't remember. Anyway, it's the ship that gets destroyed. It's the one that gets at the beginning of the Matrix movies. They're talking about the flight of the Osiris. That's it. It's talking about the Osiris, gets them the information that starts the first Matrix movie, and so that is the first animated on there, and it's how they're escaping and trying to get the movie back. And I believe they get destroyed. Spoilers. So you could do something with that, and you don't have to because it's already been done. But there's a story about how the war starts. It talks about how the machines got together and the humans, how they scorched the sky, and there's tons of battle scenes between machines and humans, all kinds of stuff like that. There is a story about that happens after the Matrix, supposedly, where there's some sort of peace between humans and machines, and it's very artsy fartsy and airy and stuff. And I wasn't quite sure. They had people jacking in and machines in the real world. I was like, I didn't quite know if I got that one. They had a story about a guy. It sort of happened before the Matrix, but he is in the Matrix and he's a runner, and he's able to somehow affect the Matrix like Neo can, but it's unconscious. And the only thing he does is makes him a really good runner, and he's an Olympic level runner. He's running all the time. He actually, he runs for some reason he breaks his legs running, and he can still run and all this stuff. And it was kind of, because he's able to change reality, so to speak. But yeah, there's a bunch of different stories. Matrix 1 and 2 tried to jump the shark too much. Matrix series better not knowing the whole story. Keep me in the dark was the best part of the story. Reboot it. So my thought was, if you want to do it, I mean, in the last movie they talk about this is the sixth Neo is the sixth one that has come out. Just redo the story and do the whole 3 episodes, but start with a completely new main characters, a new Neo, a new everything. I mean, some of the you could keep the architect could be the same. You could have the Merovingian, because those guys aren't going to change, and they can they know that this is just a thing. It's going to switch, and you could go through a story about them and how they act in the same situations and how they operate, and they would eventually, of course, fail or whatever, because we know that you could do that if you wanted to. That would be a thing, or you could try to go afterwards. I'm not sure what you do afterwards, but something based on the Animatrix where there's the peace between the robots, and that would be much more difficult to write. You need some you have to think about that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, Origins, Animatrix was interesting. I thought so too, and it was like they could just do it. The writers of the Animatrix were just kind of like, go and see what you can do here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was
movies relating to the earlier iterations. That's what I was just describing. I think that would be good too. Do the first one. You'd have them. The machines wouldn't be very good at what they were doing. They would be a little less. Perhaps they wouldn't know what would happen. Recast Zero rather than rewriting. Explain a new actress. Yeah, I kind of just overlooked that. I was like, I'll just pretend that she died.
So, things like the Animatrix, and then recently there was a Star Wars thing that did something that was basically copying the Animatrix, and it's basically say, hey, this is the thing. What do you think about it? What's your take on this? You know what I'm saying? And it, instead of having weirdos demand that everything conform to them, that's a good outlet to say, hey, this is the place where you have alternate ideas and different takes that don't change the original thing. Um, but let people kind of run with it a little bit,
Yeah, let them
and
experiment a little bit.
yeah, and that's cool. And because the same thing with Star Trek, we were talking about J.J. Abrams thing. It's like it's a whole different thing when you have an Elseworlds type thing or an alternate whatever that stands on its own, and because people could look and say, "Oh, neat," and it doesn't ruin the other thing.
Yeah.
But there has been this push amongst people that want to engineer society. I believe to they need to claim these things. They need to own these things. They need to take it away from someone else. That's their goal. When you these people, they're like, oh, ha, 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 I'm so glad that you're angry because your Warhammer thing is whatever now. It's like, so your goal is only to upset other people. That you've just admitted that,
Yeah.
right? Those people, you can't allow them to do that, because what happens is, well, we're talking about saving IP because so many IP have been destroyed. And you would think that corporations would be smart enough to say, maybe we shouldn't let our multi-billion-dollar properties be put into the hands of sociopaths. That might not work out.
Who instead of want to make a good story and make us money, want to engineer society in some way that they think is
right.
good.
And they're not hiding it. They're not hiding it.
Yeah. So Michael and Weatherman, I mean, these are two pretty good ideas. Go back. Hey, let's do the Matrix. They mentioned in the second movie, I think it is, that these guys are from an earlier version of the Matrix because they're like vampires and ghosts and stuff. They're trying to justify why we have vampires in there. Yeah,
well,
let's do one where there's vampires and ghosts. I mean, people like vampires.
I got to tell you, that kind of thing really appeals to me too. It's like
the old vampire hunter.
This deep lore kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And when they throw in these kind of quirky things that are like, oh, that's interesting. I mean, they had the thing in the original movie. So why does everything taste like chicken? It's like, that kind of thing. It's like that. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. I don't think this would be as good. I mean, you basically, if you see the Animatrix, you can watch that short. I think that's the longest one. It's 20. I think it's 20 minutes. I think that where they talk about the war machines. I mean, you could do that, but it would kind of be like Terminator. But you could do it, and you could do it in a good way. I wasn't as interested in that. I saw the animation. I'm like, okay, war with the machines, the humans get destroyed. I would prefer to see the vampires and ghosts iteration, but you could do it, and you could do a good job if you had a good writer and you put the effort into it. But yeah. Okay, you want to? Are we good? Want to go another one?
Yep.
Someone was mentioning. Was it Weatherman mentioning at the beginning
Avatar
of the show before Avatar? You want to do Avatar? I'm not.
I'm afraid I'm not qualified. The most exposure I have to Avatar is riding the ride at Disney World.
Oh, really? You haven't seen the first Avatar?
Never seen it. Never had any interest whatsoever in it.
Oh, when it came out, it's 3D and all kinds of 2009. I was all like, wow, this would be really cool. And there was one, but I was kind of disappointed. There was one part in the movie where something comes at you, it was like, whoa, I had to move, but didn't really. I thought, okay, well, let me, I'm not sure. I saw the first Avatar movie, and it was it's a technical, it's pretty cool. Lots the look of everything, and the views and the 3D. But then after I came out, I was like, the story's pretty basic, right? Humans bad, go to place to destroy,
take resources,
and the resources like unobtainium, it's called. I'm like, okay, well, who thought, like, are you joking with us? Make it platinum but Jesus, unobtainium. I'm like, okay. I'm like, they're not serious about this. And they destroy the forest. The colonel that runs the thing, he's pretty cool. He's pretty good. He's a great villain. And then of course, the noble natives with their bows and arrows rise up and defeat the bad guys. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it was so black and white, and there was no, And then I tried to watch the second one when it came out on video or something like that. I just fell asleep, and I didn't even bother to go back to it. I'm just like, usually I fall asleep. I'm like, okay, well, I gotta, but I didn't even. I didn't even want to. Supposed to be doing a third one. Death Angel Shadows rooting for the Marines. Oh, you're evil. Whether they're simpletons. What are you referring to? About the surface level, the writers? Maybe. Oh, or is this because
me? You're saying? I was reacting to Weatherman's comment where he was talking about executives.
Executives don't pay attention to the product. They have a bunch of telling them the wrong things are what people want. Yeah. Well,
I mean, they literally don't understand anything behind a name and maybe an image. Like,
yeah. Oh, this is popular. Yeah. No, they don't understand good storytelling. They're just like, we need to make money. Yeah. So I don't know how you would save Avatar. I don't think the first one was that great. It could have been better. It was like a visual, really cool visually. Everybody looked pretty cool, but the story is kind of fairly surface level. Like I said, colonizing people bad, natives good.
yeah.
Not much subtlety to it. Yeah. So I don't know
Hey,
how you would say that one. Put it
yeah,
on the shelf and not mess with it for 20 years and then try to get somebody
I
good
don't
to
know.
write it.
Does it need to be saved? Honestly, it's like it
Is it
was a
worth
thing.
saving?
No,
That's
I don't think it's worth exploring. It's like
yeah.
it like you said, it's simplistic to begin with. It's
Yeah, it wasn't that thing. Yeah, Cameron says he's got plans for 5 or 6 Avatar films. I'm hearing that there's a third one they're talking about. I'm not sure about the rest, but I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, you think with Cameron it would be better than that. He's done a lot of good stuff. First, I've read a few good moments, but as a whole, the story sucks. Yes, I agree. I would agree. Okay, what else? Okay, next, what do you want to do?
well,
Let me see
just
on my
real
list.
quick. PBR Street Gang there mentioned about Anne Flux. I vaguely remember the cartoon when it came out. I didn't really watch it with any
I've seen the
regularity, though.
movie, but you see, like we're trying to look at things that should be fixed. And Flux was just one movie, wasn't it? And was it that bad? Do we need to? It's not like they've come. Like we're kind of trying to focus on IPs that were good, and then they came out and they said, "Hey, this is good. Let's add more to it." And then the stuff they added were crap, right? And they've wrecked it since then. That's kind of what I'm doing. I mean, Aeon Flux was one movie. They haven't really ruined it. It was kind of more of a like it was. It's not one of the bigger, more well-known properties. So that's why I don't even actually have it on my list. I've got two parts to the list: the stuff that I think are that they've ruined that need to be fixed, and other stuff that haven't really been ruined. Uh, give you an example: Battlestar Galactica. So I don't think that's been ruined really. So wouldn't fix it. X Files. Is that ruined? I don't do. It's the way it is. Yeah, Mad Max. So
Mm.
anyway, I don't think I'm sort of my thoughts. I don't think those need fixing. But anyway, okay. So you want
Yeah,
me
a
me
lot
to
of
go
things
next?
are a lot of things are not particularly deep IP either. That it's like, yeah, there's one or two things maybe, and it's kind of that's it. They don't have a
Yeah,
lot to them.
or they have enough. Like for example, Babylon 5 would be a science fiction project, but I wouldn't put it on the list because it is what it is. It doesn't need to be fixed. They haven't destroyed it. It's still good, right? Like
Yeah, I'd say that
it's fine. Like
it was meant to be a standalone. I mean,
yeah,
it meant to be a complete story. It's like it's like saying, well, how do you fix Tolkien? Well, don't ruin it.
who's
Just
ruined it?
don't leave it alone.
Has it been
That's that.
ruined? It's like
Well,
maybe they're starting to. I
I
don't know. Yeah,
in that case, I think that people have basically, like with Star Trek, it's been, or Star Wars is even better example. It's they've been able to push the garbage as being part of the real thing, whereas nobody accepts that Rings of Power is Tolkien. It's
yeah,
everybody knows
that's
it's
true.
not.
That's a good point.
So
Yeah, nobody. Yeah. Okay. How about? Oh, I'll just Jurassic Park.
I haven't followed the later ones all that much, so I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, it seems like it's been doing okay, so I don't know. Do fans of it think that it's ruined at this point?
I think
It
it's
seems
just
stretched to me.
yeah, it's stretched. It is 6 movies are like so the first 3 and then the Jurassic World series, right? Which is the sort of the not quite a reboot, but at some point you're just like, why don't they just nuke that island and be done with it? Like how many times are we going to go back to the island and it's going to keep escaping and something's going to be. I don't think I've seen the fourth and fifth movie. Have you seen the sixth movie? I'm not sure. I watched it with the family and stuff, and they're fine. There's nothing wrong with them. Good, good. They're family movies, very similar to the first movie, right? How they go. They're kind of a family type story. It's not too scary, but it's not too scary. I had my kids. I'm sure I've mentioned this before. I'm forcing my kids to watch, 80s and 90s, early 90s movies that are good. And they're always like, "Oh, do we have to watch your stupid movie when you were a kid?" And then they watch it, and they're like, "Oh, this is pretty good." So we watched Jurassic Park, and they were sitting on the edge of their seats a little bit. Yeah. So I don't think it's. I think they're kind of pushing it a little too far, but I guess as long as they're making money, they haven't ruined it because it kind of follows the same. They all follow the same, scenario. They have the formula, right? And they kind of follow it. So I think they're not screwing with those too bad. But it's a little bit boring, right? How many times are we going to go back? Oh no, another dinosaur escaped. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go to Jurassic series is tired. Like kids with dinosaurs, they'll keep milking it. That's kind of what I agree. All right, I'm gonna skip some of these because I want to talk. Yeah. All right, I want to talk about something first before Back to the Future. Now, I think that's one that doesn't need fixing, and it's good the way it is. And I don't think they're messing with it. And I'm mentioning it because I just made the kids watch it last week and this week. We just yesterday watched the third movie, and they liked it. They thought it was great. So I think Back to the Future is a great example of. I hope they never try to reboot it or doing anything. And actually, my kids discussed that. They're like, oh, why don't they reboot it? They could do 2015, but it would be real 2015. And I said, well, why? How would that make the story better? And they're like, yeah, I guess it's perfect the way it is. Why would you mess with it? So, I showed them Back to the Future. They really enjoyed the movie. They thought it was great. All three of them. They liked them. And I was like, yeah, you see, your old man's not so stupid. Okay.
Well,
do you want to comment on Back to the Future?
I would choose to comment a little more broadly, and that is,
okay.
Yes, the best way to save many IP is to leave them alone. Don't remake them. Don't add to them. Just leave them be. And do like Disney used to do with their animated classics. Just re-release them every so often, and let a new generation enjoy them. It's like E.T. is a good example of that, right? I was talking about this earlier today. They jacked with it a little bit, when they did their special edition or whatever. Not too bad, but it doesn't need a sequel. It doesn't need to be remade. Just let it stand on its own,
What would you gain from redoing E.T.? Nothing. Like, it doesn't need to be.
Well, we're in this whole zone where creativity is at a low ebb. The people are not making good new stuff for the most part.
Generally speaking, yeah. All right, I'm gonna. So I think just to bookend Back to the Future, my understanding about 2015, I think it was that's 10 years now. But sometime around that, there was talk about, we should do something else. And Michael J. Fox has Parkinson's or something, so he was not really in a good place to do it. And I think both him and Christopher Lloyd said, "No, do not mess with this movie. We will not be involved."
Yeah,
and
good choice.
I don't think Fox could be involved anyway because of his medical situation. But they said, and it shut it down, and I haven't heard anything about it. So that might be, the best decision ever made. All right, let's go back to. I'm going to go back to the chat because you guys are saying some of the ones that I've already have on my list. So James talks about Planet of the Apes. What do you think, Ken?
Boy, I'm a huge Planet of the Apes fan from the original.
Yeah, me too.
Love that crap. And I saw the earlier modern versions, and I thought they were...
the first one with what's his name, who's in everything. What the hell's his name?
What is
Franco.
Franco. Yeah, James Franco.
Franco.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. But was it necessary? I don't know. And then I watched I think I saw the one with Mark Wahlberg. The first.
Oh, that one. That was a one-off. That was before Franco's.
Yeah. which it was okay. I mean, it had some neat stuff in it, like the apes were really cool. Um, and actually, that's the one that was kind of closest to the book, um, in a lot of ways. Um, but yeah, the other one went into, I think, what did they have, three movies in the James Franco uh,
So, well, no,
version?
Franco's the only is only in that first movie,
Right,
which is
but there
kind
were
of like
two
it's
others that continued from it, though.
it's kind of a prequel, right? Because it shows how the apes
Yeah,
become and escape and stuff, and then they get rid of him, and then they go to they punch it up a bunch of years, and Caesar, I guess, is now leading the apes, and there's a big battle between, him, and he's fighting Woody Harrelson, and I think there's three of them after
yeah.
that.
Oh, three after the first one.
Yeah,
Okay.
with the apes very realistic, and I think I've seen the first one. I haven't seen the other ones.
Yeah, I actually got. I think I received some of them as a gift on DVD, and I haven't watched them yet. Which, again, being a big fan of it, I should watch them. The originals. But monkeys with rifles do scare me still.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I don't like monkeys. They're evil. Yeah, I like the first five. The original. They're
Hmm.
great. So then you go, okay. I'm
Wait?
looking it up here.
What's the worst one of the first five?
Okay, so Planet of the Apes is the first one. Beneath the Planet of the Apes. I like that one with all the nuclear stuff, the crazy Escape from the Planet of the Apes. That was good. All of a sudden they show up and they're in modern times, so to speak. I don't know. Would you say probably the fourth or fifth one? Conquest or Battle? Maybe the fifth one?
Hmm.
Battle of the Planet of
I
the Apes?
didn't like Beneath the Planet of the Apes. I thought that was the worst
You
one.
didn't with the
No.
nuclear guys?
Mm-mm.
Really? Oh, I
Yeah,
thought that was
I
cool.
thought
You find out what
yeah, it just
happened to humans are all
well, okay. Here, a funny thing is, do you remember when we were little kids? They had these comic book storybooks that came with a record,
mhm.
like a 45,
Yeah,
record.
yeah, vaguely.
I had one of those for Beneath the Planet of the Apes, and I don't know if it freaked me out or whatever when I was a little kid, and so I have a distaste for that particular one. And it was weird too. They were all mutated, and it was kind of scary for me.
Oh, so maybe that's why.
Yeah,
I thought that
but
was good. I like that one.
I mean, I do. I won't say it's terrible, but it's my least favorite of
Yeah,
the first
I
five.
think it's got to be Conquest or Battle. They were
See,
kind of
I like
they were
both of
kind
those.
of scraping the bottom of the barrel,
Yeah, for
especially.
me that's Thursday and Friday because they used to show them, at like after school or at
Oh
like
yeah,
late at night, all through the week, the whole five. And I like both of the last two. I really like those a lot.
didn't you even think the last was it? I think it was the last one where they would tell the story and then they cut to this guy in this valley or by this waterfall. He's talking to apes and humans about.
Well, yeah, that was the epilogue basically.
Oh, was it okay? That was a little
Yeah.
weird. But yeah, I'm just looking at the wiki. So there's five in the original series, and
Mhm.
then you've got the Mark Wahlberg remake called Planet of the Apes with Tim Burton. That was okay, but I didn't think that was that great. And then they have the reboot of the series, which is now at four movies.
Okay.
Rise of the Planet of the Apes, which is the first one with Franco,
Franco. Yeah.
and then he's not in the rest. And then it's Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, War for the Planet of the Apes, and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. And those are
Hmm.
various ones where they're fighting Woody Harrelson, and the apes are
So
you know
my
kind of
understanding
scary. I
is
mean, the apes are doing too. We don't
my
know.
understanding is that those actually link to the originals. That they did try to tie those in because they're again, I didn't see all of them, but there was something about like the ship that took off was in those movies there was a rocket that took off or whatever that was um, Taylor's rocket.
Hmm.
That where he eventually ended up in the future.
Yeah,
So I think those are technically together. So in that case, if that's true, then those would like with Caesar and everything, because again, Caesar was in the fourth and fifth of the original movies.
yeah,
Like the fifth movie would be overlapping with one of these other movies, I think.
yeah.
So it would be like a weird remake kind of thing.
Well, it has these written as a reboot, and they're just sort of focusing on a different era,
Hmm.
right? More early in the thing, but yeah, there would
Well,
be.
but that's it. It has to be an alternate too, though, because I don't think there was a Cornelius and Zira weren't in this one, were they? In the newer ones?
And no, but I don't think so. But they wouldn't be because they're still fighting the humans, right? The humans are, in these, in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, War for the Planet of the Apes, Kingdom, they're fighting. I
Okay,
believe
but
they're fighting the humans.
Caesar is Cornelius and Zira's child though in the original.
Yeah,
So they came back to the 60s or whatever, or I guess it was the 80s in the story,
it would have been. Yeah, it
and
would have been the
and
70s.
they had a baby that was Caesar,
Yeah.
and Caesar in this is different unless it just happens to be another chimp named Caesar,
No,
but
but they're going through the early part of the Planet of the Apes. Like this is Caesar
okay,
is.
but we know Caesar's parents aren't Cornelius and Zira though,
How do we know that
because we see Caesar's origin
in this?
in the
In
new
this,
ones.
yeah. Do we? Okay, I don't remember Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I thought Caesar was already there, and he's given some drugs by Franco or something and tested.
He is. He is, and
but he could still be. Oh no, you're right. He probably wouldn't be his kid because he would have been smart. You're right.
because he was just a regular chip,
Yeah, it's a
and then,
reboot. It's a reboot.
yeah. So anyway,
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, and they're talking about the early stuff. Humans are still organized enough, like the original Planet of the Apes. It's been 1,000 years basically, and humans are they can't even talk, right? They're just
well,
basically.
it's way more than 1,000 years. I think it's astronomical amount, but
They say it's the year 3000. I think
is that it? I thought it was way more.
The ship has some sort of counter. Not sure how
Yeah.
you would on a ship you'd figure out. You imagine you're in a 1970s spaceship, and supposedly you can figure out what time it is. But anyway,
Clock still runs. But well, okay, but that so in the fifth one, the fifth of the original movies, they the apes had basically taken over. They were dominant at that point, but humans were still fully normal humans. They
yeah, in the Battle of the Planet of the Apes, yeah, they're kind of living in harmony. At the end of it, or the epilogue, they're talking about it.
Well, yeah, right. The epilogue's confusing. I forget how it goes because I think that was supposed to be. It was an epilogue to the fifth movie, leading to this. Oh, hopefully they'll get along, and then it's like, well, no, it ends up at the first, at the first movie where the humans are, turned into animals essentially.
Yeah. So yeah. So then, okay, I think Weatherman. Yeah, the thing about this is I think you're right. It was based on books written by 5 books written, a few prequels to Pushman State. So it is based on books. So there's they have something to go with. Yeah.
Well, the original book, though, I don't know about the any others that might have come, but the original book was basically the third movie in reverse. The one because it was about this spacefaring. We're getting really into the Planet of the Apes here, but the spacefaring couple was traveling around in their spaceship, and they found like a note in a bottle kind of thing, and it told this story about these people that came from Earth and went to this other planet that was inhabited by intelligent apes and da 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 da. And so the guy, the man, basically became like a celebrity on the ape world, as a human. It's like a talking human because they were primitives, humans there, and this whole thing, and then he goes and escapes back, and they go back to Earth, which is then taken over by intelligent apes. And it turns out at the end that the couple in the spaceship were apes, and they're like, oh, where this stupid story came from about humans talking and all this stuff, so they just kind of discard it. And it was both in the Marky Mark version, kind of did that, and then again, like the Escape from the Planet of the Apes, the third of the original movies was that, but they put Zira and Cornelius going back in time in that position, kind of playing through that whole scenario where they became celebrities and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So,
all right, just to go back. Green Girl says this is about Back to the Future. Universal Hollywood did the Back to the Future with live actor. It looked incredibly successful and fun. There's talk about rebooting it with Tom Holland, but I think even he said he won't do it. Right. Okay, just end off that. Just going through the chat here. I'm trying to. The next one I think that you mentioned is RoboCop reboot. That was one on my list. I mean, the first RoboCop was good. By the time you get to the third one, I think it's a little bit weak. what's your thoughts on?
Well,
They don't seem to be doing much more with it.
we're kind of living in that world now, so I'm not sure. It was kind of future where crime has gone rampant and everything. It's like we kind of lived in that zone, or kind of still in that zone in some places right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure that would work as well. And the whole corporation thing. Well, that part could still hold up, I suppose.
I thought that the RoboCop reboot. I thought they did a good job with changing the technology to make it more modern and fit. But other
Mhm.
than that, I'm like, why? There was actually less nuance in the movie, right? In the new RoboCop than there was in the original. Because in the original, you're like, you're wondering if he, does he remember his wife? Does he not? But they pull that all out of this one, and there's not that sort of conflict between he's trying to remember and you know he's less machine. He's just a guy with a robot suit on.
Mm.
And they pulled all that away, and I'm like, oh, that's the key part of the movie. And I think they just basically they must have realized they were doing a bad job because they didn't do anything after. It's been quite a while since the last RoboCop movie.
Yeah, RoboCop. That was a fairly big influence for me in my young life. That and like Blade Runner and a few other movies. My group of friends back in those days, we had a role playing game that we played that was very much like a futuristic cop kind of thing, and so we got a lot of inspiration, from those movies for that.
Yeah. So the RoboCop reboot was 2014. That's 11 years ago now, and they haven't done
Mm.
anything with it. I mean, like I said, the technology looked good, but why? You didn't do anything to the
Yeah,
story. You didn't make it better. You actually made it less because RoboCop is less conflicted. He's less robotic. He's just a
yeah,
guy with a suit on. I'm like, what? Did you not understand what the movie's about? What's wrong with you guys?
yeah.
Um, there's a bit of news about RoboCop here. Comic book, RoboCop Rogue City, unfinished business release date. So it seems to me that RoboCop's doing fairly well in the comic book era. Um, but yeah, I don't know too much about that. But it seems like they're working there, which is fine. I mean, like, hey, stay there and do good stories, and don't bother with the messing up the a movie with it or something. So that would be good. So yeah, that's not much in RoboCop. That's 11 years. That's good. You want to pick one, Cam, or do you want to?
No.
I'm like, oh, there's a couple more here that
Well,
I'm
again,
like, these are
any of them.
hard. These are hard though, eh? Okay. All
Oh
right.
well. Okay.
Let's
What?
just dig in a difficult one. It's
Okay.
let's give the people what they want. A little bit of conflict. Terminator,
Okay.
big one. Lots of
Uh,
stuff. Lots of
yeah.
questionable.
This is another one that I
Go.
jumped off of after a certain amount, and I mean, they had the TV show, they had all kinds of crazy stuff there. This is another one that didn't need to go on, as far as I'm concerned.
I'm kind of
It's
trying to stick to the movies, the bigger properties. But yeah, go ahead.
well, you know,
Go.
I'm
Go where
trying
you
to
want.
remember the last one I watched.
Dark Fate was the last one
Okay,
with
I
the
definitely
girl
didn't
who's
see
taken
that.
over. Well, you maybe didn't see it, but John
Oh,
Connor
that
has
was
to go.
relatively recently. That was
Yeah, a couple
I.
years ago.
I'm trying to remember if I even watched the third one. What was the third one?
Uh, with the female Terminator.
No, so I stopped at two. So now
Really?
here's how you fix it. Stop at two.
Okay. All right. First one, good, of course. Second one, also good. I enjoyed it. The third one gets a little bit of heat. I actually enjoyed it. I thought it was a good ending towards it, and it felt reasonably well with the whole Terminator stuff. Having a female Terminator, she's a mix of the polymetal and the other one. They end the movie off. They can't stop, the best they can do is get John Connor to a safe place so that he can carry on with Judgment Day. They get to Judgment Day. Uh, it was reasonably good. Nothing wrong with it.
Well, see, that's the problem with time travel stories, right? It's like, what's to
Yeah,
keep them from just trying again and
yeah,
again and again, right? I mean,
and then they go a little bit. Then we get into what was the one after that? Oh, with what's her name from Game of Thrones, the blonde haired girl from Game of Thrones. She's the kind of the main in there. She's been, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger's been following, he's her babysitter and he's been protecting her the whole time. And then, of course, Dark Fate, where they kill John Connor right at the beginning. They bring in another girl. And you're right. That's the problem with time travel. You just keep flipping it and flipping it. And yeah, I think the shark has been jumped. Yeah, I mean, I would say, 3. That's it. 3 was good. How would you fix the Terminator? Don't make any more movies.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like the first movie really stood on its own very well.
Yeah.
It had a great ending, and somehow again, they used to do sequels. Terminator 2, which was a huge hit, right? I mean, it was
Yeah.
one of the biggest movies of all time.
Yeah.
When it
At the
came
time,
out,
for sure.
but it did the original one justice, right? It was like,
It did.
they took this route, and again, another movie very similar kind of arrangement was Alien and Aliens. It was like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
Alien was a very successful movie. It was stood alone, da da da, and they came in with the second one, which was very different, as we discussed, in another episode. But it worked. It really worked
Yeah.
well. And then
That's
3
James
goes
Cameron.
off the
That's
rails.
Ridley Scott versus James Cameron.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, and again, I will go one further. I didn't think that Terminator 3 was that bad.
Okay.
It was overall it's pretty good. I mean, you got the dark ending. They don't save anything. Similar to the first, the first Terminator, where they stop it for now, sort of stuff, but we don't know what happens. But anyway, okay, aliens.
Okay. This is a
You just mentioned it, so we'll do that one.
yeah. There's all the the prequel stuff that they've had from that, and
Yeah.
I think a lot of people hate it. But again,
It's very mixed.
I'm a deep lore guy, and some of that stuff really, it's like, oh, that's cool. I want more of this. So I can't say that the execution was great from it, and they kind of make a mess of a lot of things. But if it was done better, I probably would have really, really liked it. I haven't seen the more recent ones of the prequel things, but I did see, what was the first one called?
Of
The
what the okay, so I got so I've seen so I kind of what am I gonna say here? Okay, so well, let's just start at the beginning. So Aliens. What about Aliens 3 and Aliens 4?
I didn't see 4, 3 I did see, and I don't know. I mean, it was okay. I just didn't care that much about it. It's like they just kind of were extending things, and yeah, I didn't see a lot of. It was kind of self-contained and not needed. And then 4 was the one where Ripley was basically this hybrid or whatever. Right?
Yeah, hybrid. Yeah, exactly.
I didn't see it. I didn't want to see it. I don't like
You know who wrote that one? Alien Resurrection.
Resurrection was Joss
Writer.
Whedon.
Yeah, Wheaton. Yeah. So okay, Alien and Aliens, of course, good films.
Yeah.
Different films, right? Because the first one is kind of like it's more
It's a
like
horror.
sci-fi horror,
Yep.
horror with sci-fi, and then Aliens I would call sci-fi action.
Yep.
With with some horror in it, but less on the horror and more on the right. I appreciate Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection for what they are. Not as good as the first two, but kind of different and looking at it in a different way. So I appreciate that, but not as good. So then you've got Prometheus,
Okay.
Alien Covenant, and Alien Romulus.
Okay. I
So-
didn't see. I saw Prometheus, and I didn't see the other two.
Okay, so what do you think of Prometheus?
I thought it was okay. I thought it was a cool idea. Because it's like, well, there is this thing about these aliens and where did they come from and everything. I think they went too far with it. Some of the ideas were kind of cool, but it got a little too cosmic,
Yeah,
with the engineers or whatever, and they're basically the creators of the human race and all that. So it's like, okay,
You
that's a
didn't
little
like
too
that?
much. It's kind of an interesting idea, but I think it didn't serve the franchise as well. I think it would have been better if it was like, yeah, these are they created the aliens and for whatever, and they did have something to do maybe with Earth and all the stuff, but they, like I said, it got too cosmic.
I like Prometheus. I thought it fit well within the whole idea. It was before, and you're kind of people are keen to find out about the engineers. It was kind of interesting.
It was. It was.
It wasn't too Ridley Scott also directed it, same as who directed Alien. Yeah, I liked it overall. Covenant. Now I think I've seen it once, and that's basically the one where we found out that David, the android, basically makes the alien, right?
Well, that happened in Prometheus, where the first alien I think it's the first alien we saw it, because it was basically made from the engineer, right?
No. Well, Prometheus, he infects, what's her name with it. But in Alien Covenant, we actually, they come to this planet, and there's an earlier version of David, and he's actually, using the engineer's bioweapon, the black goo stuff, and he's actually engineering, going through various iterations of this to make the alien, which we eventually see, which is eventually in the first stories, the face hugger types and all that stuff. It's a little bit, strange here, what's going on there. Yeah.
Okay, am I forgetting something then? Because I didn't. Wasn't there an alien made in Prometheus?
Yeah. It comes out of the girl. What's his name? Infects her. David infects her.
Yeah, but she cuts it out of herself, right?
Yeah, she cuts it out of herself and runs off, and then it, kills the engineer. They have to, stop the ship.
Okay, maybe I'm forgetting that. Maybe it just killed the engineer. I thought it infected him.
Well, it takes him some, and we don't know what happens, right?
Okay.
We don't see what happens.
Okay, well, let me back up for 1 second. The whole idea of telling the story of where these aliens came from, I think, is a cool idea.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that the story they ended up telling that I like it that much, though.
That's what they're trying to do that with Prometheus, and I think with Covenant and Romulus, which I haven't seen yet. I don't know anything about really, but anyway, Romulus just came out like less than a year ago.
Yeah, and some people flopped pretty bad, didn't it?
I don't think it did so well. Some people I know saw it and said, "Oh, it's not that bad," but yeah, it's getting a little bit weird. Like Covenant, like David is a version of David that makes the alien that we see in the end. Like, why is this crazy android doing this stuff? And he destroys. They find a version of him. He destroys his counterpart. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, I like the whole
a little bit iffy
alien archaeology kind of angle to it. That's kind of cool. But well, I don't know where I didn't see the other two, so I'm not sure. Yeah. It doesn't sound like it paid off very well, but
yeah, I thought Prometheus was well shot, well acted, good story, everything that you need, and it seemed to fit into this series very, well. I'm not sure that Covenant did the same thing, and I haven't seen Romulus, so I don't know. But it seems like they're getting a little bit off the rails. Yeah. All right. I guess we shouldn't. We don't know much more about that, so I guess we shouldn't probably talk about that one. Okay, I'm just looking at my list. All right, I'm going to give you. All right, Transformers. Go.
Okay, that's a deep one. I've been thinking about Transformers stuff a little bit lately, namely because I got some cool Transformers model kits.
You're a little bit quiet.
Oh, sorry, I leaned away from the microphone.
I think you leaned away. Yeah.
I've been thinking about Transformers and watching some of the various shows and things. The movies, I think, are probably the low ebb of it for the most part.
And that's kind of mainly where I'm sort of focusing on the movies. But go ahead.
Now, a lot of people like Bumblebee though.
Yeah, really?
Yeah. Well, I liked it, and some of the best stuff where they had a few flashbacks to Cybertron. That was like some of the best stuff in Transformers that I've ever seen in the movies.
Really?
Oh yeah. Do you remember that? They were very short scenes, but it was like G1 Transformers, classic Optimus, and there RC was there, and Brawn, and Bumblebee, of course. Um, it was
I haven't seen Bumblebee.
okay. It's worth watching.
Someone told me that a couple people have told me it's worth watching. I should see it.
Yeah, it is. And then I think what came after that was the Beast Wars one. I think.
Yeah, I mean, you could just go through the entire, all.
Well, okay, the first one,
the first sixes.
the first cinematic one was okay. I'd say just okay. Megan Fox and what's that other kid's name? The crazy one.
Shia LaBeouf.
Shia LaBeouf, yeah. Yeah, okay. I think I saw the second one too, and those were, they're okay. And
I mean, the problem is it's Michael Bay, right? Like,
yeah, it became stupid real fast, and the Transformers got, it's part of the coolness was their kind of their classic, blocky robot, style and everything. And they got into the real crazy. It's like, they basically can just keep transforming into anything without limit. And, they're very, way more alien, and it just kind of didn't work, visually for me, at least. Cause I like the classic, and I think Transformers stuff, there's a lot of different versions, and, I did see, what was the Transformers 1 was an animated.
Oh yeah,
that came out. Yeah, it was relatively new, and I just saw it like a couple weeks ago, and it was actually not bad. It kind of got caught up in the whole is this woker thing, but it really wasn't, in my opinion. And it was, excuse me, it was a reboot of the original story. Although, let me back up for 1 second. I don't know what the original Transformers stories are because, in my mind, what I watched for that was the cartoon. But there was the Marvel comic that went with that. And, same way with G.I. Joe, there was the Marvel comic and there was the cartoon. For me, the comic was the real G.I. Joe because that was where the deep stories were. And I'm sure it was that way with Transformers as well. But I didn't happen to read the Transformers. So the cartoon is my default, Yeah. And, so what is the real story? I don't know. For Transformers, it's very difficult to say what that is. But it seems to me that they keep on, when they come back to the G1 style of Transformers, you know what I'm talking about when I say G1? It's like, what was in the cartoon and the original comic,
Mm-hmm.
And the toys,
well,
from the 80s.
So that everybody knows. I mean,
well, that's Generation 1 Transformers is what. And whenever
the cartoons from the 80s.
Right. And when they come back to that and do that style, and they do very often, it's pretty popular. Even Transformers 1 was generally that style on Cybertron. Then it seems to work well. So that's where they should stay, in my opinion, and don't get off into these more cosmic or weirder or more anime or any of that. Just kind of stick with the basics, and you'll do pretty well.
Yeah. Okay. So let me just okay. So first 5 movies, Michael Bay, starting in summer of 2007. Transformers, Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, Transformers: Dark of the Moon, and those are the ones with Shia LaBeouf, and then they get rid of him. Transformers: Age of Extinction and The Last Night, and those have Wahlberg in it, I believe. And then that's it for Michael Bay as director. Then you go Bumblebee and Transformers: Rise of the Beasts, which was 2 years ago.
Right.
Yeah. Of the mainstream movies.
Yeah. I'd say the Michael Bay ones are probably the low ebb. And
it's unfortunate because that's some of the ones that most people know, right?
Right.
Like, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was just reading some of the chat there. I think the toys that became Transformers were not a specific line of toys. They were a bunch of different toy lines that someone in the US went over and took all these different toys and brought them in to become Transformers. Like Jetfire or Skyfire, I think he's called in some versions. He was a Robotech toy, I think, or at least the same as the Robotech toys. But he became part of Transformers, in the US. And then Death Angel Shadow was saying cartoon first before the comic. I don't think so. I think the comic was before the cartoon, but then there was also a UK version of the comic and a US version, and I think those were didn't line up either. So there's always been kind of a mess of continuity for Transformers. But yeah, Hasbro had this whole thing. There was this, the '80s thing where the marketing, all these the I the stories came to sell toys, right? I mean, and in fact, that was kind of the good old days. Okay, Weatherman's backing me up on the on the toy thing,
Yeah.
but
Weatherman says you're correct. You must be correct, right?
well, there you go. He's the most loyal fan and almost always right. So
Almost as right as me.
well, okay.
Who's your? I follow him. Who's the comic book?
Brian Shearer.
Brian Shearer. Yeah,
Yeah, he did a lot of great Transformers artists.
Transformers and GI Joe,
and GI Joe as well.
I follow him. He's a lot of like every day he's posting his. He's doing like warm up drawing, and he does a warm up drawing, and he posts it.
And incidentally, he has a Kickstarter campaign going on right now.
Does he?
You know what? Let me find that. I'll find that.
Drop it in the chat there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had him on the show before, and I like his. I think today he did She-Hulk. Was his drawing today, if I remember correctly.
He also did a.
He's done a
Emma Frost
one recently. Well, Emma Frost, was that one today? Maybe
I think that was today.
I last one I remember was She-Hulk. Maybe that was yesterday. He's done a he posted a Transformer one he did. Yeah, GI Joe Transformer. So yeah, he's a pretty good artist. I like his stuff. Okay, so while you're looking for that, we're getting pretty far on time. We're heading towards the 2 hour mark. I don't know if we should do a couple more or end her off. Let's just why not throw out another one. Any other? Okay, I'm gonna throw out Men in Black. You want to start, Cam, or you want me to start?
You can start.
You can start. Okay, we're getting into the dregs. Men in Black. Okay, not a bad first movie, second, third. Not bad science fiction movies. I think they really. The fourth one is Men in Black International. I think they pretty much jumped the shark with that one. It's pretty weak, and I think that they've realized that, and they don't seem keen on doing another one. I would say, some of these properties, Men in Black, are not as, big as some of the earlier ones we've been talking about. I don't think we're going to lose anything by not doing anything with Men in Black. It's not as popular as some of the other stuff. You need to put it away for a while and let it sit. Men in Black International 2019. That's 6 years ago. That seems like they've pretty much agree that we should maybe let this sit for a while. You still looking for that link?
I am, and Men in Black is something. Yeah, I don't see any reason to, to really do more of it. It was okay, when it came out.
Here's something I wanted to mention before we finish off is that it seems to me that the things that are broken, and the only things that are broken are the things that they've tried to add on to. Like, let's keep this going into this, into the last 10 years, and that's when they break them and make them. It has to do with whatever the political or whatever's going on in the world, and people are just, we got to change the storyline to fit, whatever the message or the narrative that's now, and then they screw it up. The ones that aren't screwed up, I mean, not completely, are the ones that they haven't made. They didn't do Back to the Future. They haven't screwed it up. Everything that they do, sorry, not everything, but most of the stuff that they do carry on doing, they're like, oh, we're going to take this, and they screw it up. Exceptions to that might be maybe Mad Max. First three movies stand on their own, and Furiosa and Fury Road might be okay. Yeah, Brian Shear, X.com, Brian Shear.
Okay, sorry to interrupt. Sadly, Brian has canceled that campaign
Oh, did
that
he?
he had. Yeah, it
He didn't
you know,
go.
I follow Brian, and it got away from me even. So he didn't find the groove for promotion. I think on it. Just it didn't get didn't get out there. So he said that they might retool, and he did. He was partnering with another artist doing the art book, and he said they might try to look at it in a different format, but it didn't take off for some reason, unfortunately. But you can check out his Twitter account there and his website, which is linked from his Twitter account.
Yeah.
And he's got a lot of great stuff.
Yeah, he's a good artist.
Yeah, he's a great guy too.
Yeah, and if you, like I said, we had him on the show quite long ago, and you can,
Yep.
we talked to him. And if you are if you're a big fan of GI Joe or the Transformers, I think he still does commissions for those. But those are his two big ones, and he's great at them. So if you are a fan of any of that stuff and you want to get a original piece of art of any of that, I mean, he's the guy to go to, I would say, right? Would you say?
Absolutely. Yeah, and especially Transformers. If you like that classic G1 look, he is right. I mean, he might be the best, at that, and he can. I mean, he does them like no one else. He just on his website a few days ago he did Bruticus, which is.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
The military. 5-6 part. Combiner.
Yeah. Okay, so well, let's finish off the show. Do you want to? Before we, you want to challenge me on that? It seems that anything they make, they keep trying to redo. They destroy.
Yeah.
There's very few sci-fi properties that they keep going on with that they don't wreck. And I would suggest that maybe Mad Max is fits that bill where it's it's from the 80s, 70s, 80s, but the latest iterations don't completely destroy the series or are just complete crap. Is there any others that fit that? Would you say Blade Runner was that? The second Blade Runner was kind of weird a little. I was like, I'm not sure what's going on.
I never saw it. The second one. I didn't hear it was particularly bad.
No, I'm not saying it's bad. It's just a little. There's some subtle things. I think where they're trying to build the, building on it or something. It was fine. I think that's one, and that's a little bit. The second Blade Runner was 10 years ago, a little bit farther along. I think it might not fit, but most of the stuff that they've done. Tron, I think we're going to see another Tron. Summer we're supposed to. Yeah, so I'm curious as to see what the deal is with that one and how they're going to do that. Oh, and as we've announced, our next movie night is probably going to be Tron, right?
Right, the original. To answer, sorry, just PBR Street Gang was saying it's 4-part limited series from Marvel. Yeah, it was. From what I just looked at it real quick, it was originally planned as a 4-part, and then they just ended up continuing on. 5 through 80 issues for American.
Right. Other like Predator. I think Predator is a sci-fi movie you can't really screw up because it's Predator comes down, tries to kill everybody he shoots. It's like it's science fiction. It's an action movie. It's fun. You just watch it and away you go. Battlestar Galactica. I liked the reboot, but again, that reboot was done 2009, like before all this crap came out.
Wasn't it earlier than that? Even
2008, it finished off.
I want to say, well, maybe finished off. Yeah, I think the original came out in 2003.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I'm saying when it finished, so it missed all this stuff. I think Stargate hasn't been messed with, but again, it's because no one's tried to reboot it in the last 10 years or mess with it in the last 10 to 15 years, so they haven't screwed it up.
Well, you're absolutely right that we've come. I mean, again, in the 80s or 90s, we're like, oh my god, wouldn't it be great if somebody did, this as a movie? And now it's like, oh my god, they're doing this as a movie. It's like,
oh, please don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Please don't screw it up. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like, what else? Hunger Games.
Who cares?
Yeah, it's kind of
Crap.
it's technically science fiction, but I think they've jumped the shark a bit too. The only other one on here, well, Bill and Ted. Now, I didn't see the third movie, but that was like I think that's kind of a throwback, and I don't know if it's science fiction. I would count, but yeah, Hunger what? Yeah, Hunger Game. Yeah, Hunger Games. Hunger what? Yeah, yeah. The only other one I mentioned, I think, would be Dune, and I think that one's been generally successful. Though I have problems with the part two that they just part one and part two, which I've mentioned on the channel before, and I think I have some videos about problems with it. But we're going to get a part three. We're going to see how that's kind of ongoing. But other than that, I think that the vast majority of stuff is if they haven't touched it in the last 10 plus years, it's still okay. But if they've touched it, it's most of it is turned to crap with a couple of specific examples that they haven't, which seems to be like lucky or something. I don't know. Yeah. Do you want to go with that, Cam? Anything?
No, I generally agree.
That's kind of my sum up of the sci-fi IPs. If they haven't touched it, they haven't screwed it up. They mostly screwed up the vast majority of them, with a few few notable examples that they haven't. So it's kind of a shame. You think about last 10, 15 plus years, everything they put out is just poor storytelling. And how can you do that? Why are you killing science fiction? Why do they hate us?
Yep.
Why do they hate us science fiction lovers? Yeah. All right. That's an issue for another show. Okay, that's it for this show, I think. That's maybe we'll do. There's a couple questions like I said, why do they hate us? Also, why is the science fiction department in like bookstores so small? They hate us. We're dying. Fantasy, everything is doing better. Manga, anime, everything is doing better than science fiction now here in North America for sure.
Nobody
like
reads.
The Toasters Looking Human. Yeah. That was an interesting. Yeah. But questions for another day. Is that it for the show, Cam? Did I forget anything?
Nope, nothing.
Nothing? I think maybe I did. Because us science fiction fans demand quality over quantity. So that's why they don't give us the thing. We can talk, we could do a show about that. I think it has more to do with publishing the people who publish crap and how things are going in publishing, and the thoughts of the publishing companies. They think that men don't read books, but what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Is it men don't read books, so therefore you don't make books for them, or you make books for women and then you make books that appeal to women so men read less? That's the question. I think really the for the most part, with some notable examples in science fiction, some big names, I think science fiction is mostly in the indie area, and I think that's where you're gonna have to go to get good science fiction. And that's an area I've been thinking about for book wise, for sort of focusing, trying to get more into, and talk about that. But try to find my next science fiction, because I have trouble finding good science fiction to read. If I go to a library or a bookstore, I'm like, what is this crap? I'm not willing to trust it and try it. But anyway, that's me.
Yeah, I guess as a final note, we're talking about fixing things, but just in general with sci-fi IPs is, there's, I don't know of anything I'm like, oh, I wish that would be put in a different form, made to movies or whatever. And I can't, I have trouble envisioning. It's like, well, what would I do if I had control and was able to make one? It's, I don't have a good idea for what would be, oh, this is what sci-fi needs, as a new IP. I know things that I like, but it's more like going to the past.
Yeah.
rather than I don't have a vision for what I would do with it. I mean, I really feel we're in a valley of ideas. Oh, okay, PBR strip back, yes, Thundar, of course,
Yeah.
that's always a good idea. But of course, they'd run that today too. But I'd still probably give it a try.
Yeah. There's a lot of a lot of science fiction uh, kind of reads like you know, well they feel the same. The writers follow a formula. There's a certain style, jumping back and forth to certain things. They all are a little more like I kind of end up um, comparing everything to Frank Herbert because he's such an unusual writer, and no one could write like Herbert for his original Dune because of the way he writes. But most writers write in a sort of an action-oriented kind of style, and most of them would fit fairly well with a movie. Like it would be fairly easy to adapt it because it kind of follows that idea, like a graphic novel or you know that kind of storytelling, which would fit fairly well visually. The only guy I would say that, like who's a big writer that I've been following lately, and being a snob, of course, anything written, if you didn't write your first novel before the year 2000, then it probably sucks. That's my thinking. So I go back before that. So, but Neil Asher is a guy whose first novel was written, I think, in 2001 or something like that. He's got about 20 novels out, something like that. And I've talked about him on X or something like that, and I've recommended one of his books recently. And I'm on the Discord, which Death Angel Shadow puts out. I think I talked about him in there, or talked because I just finished reading one of his books. But yeah, he's a novelist that I recommend, and I could see him being, making a live action movie. You could, make a live action movie in, one of his novels. He's got so many, and they're all in this one universe. And he started his latest 4 novels has started in a second universe, which kind of parallels the first, but not quite. It's a little bit different, but you have lots of stuff there that you could make into a movie for him, for example. Other than him, I can't think of a big name science fiction writer other than, maybe Corey, who did the Expanse novels. And I think they've got it's 2 guys. They've got a new novel out in a different storyline, I think in a different universe. I haven't read it yet, but like other than those 2 guys, who else is big that is, I would call a 21st century writer and not somebody who started writing, in the 20th century, like Asimov or Heinlein or any of these other guys that you could make stuff into. But yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about that a little longer and figure it out. All right. Sorry, did you want to comment on that, Cam? Before yeah.
No, I think there is. We could probably do a whole show on where are things going in sci-fi, and unfortunately, I think the answer is nowhere good. It's I mean, and I think we really need something too. So well, I've talked a lot about how Star Wars has basically put us in. Everything is been. It's like a black hole. That
Yeah.
has killed so many other potential things that just never got off the ground. So I don't know. That's a whole other discussion, I guess.
Well, and I'm not a fan of like I'm very I'm not a big fan of Star Wars and Star Trek books. Like every time I would go and see them, I consider them the low end of the pool, the shallow end of the pool of science fiction, right? These are just, I mean, they can be good stories, you can enjoy them, that's fine. But these are writers who are just, they're playing in someone else's pool instead of making something new. And you'd like, it'd be nice to see something new and more creative. There's a place for that stuff, and it's great to get people involved in science fiction. But I want to get you out of, reading a million Jean-Luc Picard stories or another Skywalker story and get you into real science fiction, right? That are people create their own worlds and they're out of this world. They're very different. They're not just, stuck on these, large properties. So I've always looked at those guys as, with a little bit of derision, that those types of novels. So you can enjoy them, but hey, try to get into the real stuff. But They're not. Okay, they're
That's
not.
a very
playing the pig in her pool.
It's a very snobby view you just elucidated there.
Who, Death Angel Shadow or me?
No, you
Me?
about the
Oh,
real science fiction.
yeah, and Death Angel Shadow too. Well, I am a science fiction snob, so I'm a little
Right.
bit. But anyway, yeah. So, but enjoy them if you want. It's not against enjoying a good book. Everybody likes it. You can have some mind candy, but yeah, I try to go to the stuff that's a little bit more challenging and stuff. But anyway, yeah, I think you made a good point. That's something I've been thinking about that for years. I gotta, I haven't come to any conclusion and what's going on. Maybe we should be looking at getting a few writers in here, and talking to them or other people and discussing it with people who maybe know a little more, people in the publishing industry or actual science fiction writers, see what they think about that kind of stuff.
Sounds like some real work.
Yeah, it sounds like some work. Well, maybe we could just ask questions and they could, but we'd have to think of the questions. But anyway, all right. But that's for a little. Let me sit on that a little bit and mull it about and see what I can get with it. But that's 2 hours. This is our longest show ever, and we appreciate all 7 of you for 6 now for staying and putting up with us for this super long show, which wasn't going to be so long. But before we go, I guess we should do Death Angel Shadow favorite part of the show, which he stays through to the end, and that's of course the jokes. So Cam, are you ready for a joke before we end?
Yeah, let's get it over with.
Okay. Let me see if I can try to. Weatherman, hey, you stuck in. Thanks, man. I thought you were gone, but great.
Yes, thanks.
Okay,
thanks everybody.
What do you call a cheesy sci-fi movie about a hair salon?
I don't know. What do you call a cheesy sci-fi movie about a hair salon?
Star tresses. Like Star Trek, but tresses. There's the hair. It's an old word for.
All right.
Let me see. I have a couple of these. I'm just like, there's some that are really. Okay, 2 more. How do sci-fi movies greet each other?
I don't know. How do sci-fi movies greet each other?
They say, "May the sequels be with you." Right? Because that's a joke. Like may the force be with you with sequels, because you want to have
you
want to have it get it? Right?
Got it.
Another, and plus make money. Okay. All right. Last joke. What do you call a sci-fi movie that keeps telling bad jokes?
I don't know. What do you call a sci-fi movie that keeps telling bad jokes?
A pun-ishing experience. Get it? Because a pun is a type of joke. And right? Get it? A pun-ishing
No, I'm going to say no to that one. It has no sci-fi real. That could have been for anything. It's
what do you call a sci-fi?
Strike YouTube, it from the record.
What do you call a sci-fi YouTube channel that keeps telling bad jokes? We'll have to get. I don't know the answer to that one. All right, but that's it for the show, everyone. Thanks for staying with us. 2 hours, our longest one yet, but
Well, hold on. Wait.
What?
Wednesday, don't forget to join us for the Babylon 5 retrospective, episode 16. Eyes.
I was going to mention this stuff.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
That's it.
You do it.
I did.
Babylon 5. And next week, what are we going to do next week?
I
don't know. I'll have to think of something. But I think after that, Cam, it'll be like 4 weeks since our last. Are we going to say we haven't picked a date for the movie night? Are we going to say not the next show, but the show after? So the next show is on the 4th.
That's fine.
Of May. And then the show after that is going to be. Whoops, my calendar's going the wrong way. The next show is going to be the 11th of May. Do we want to set Tron for that one?
11th of May.
Are we good? Yeah, we good.
Yeah, that's fine. We could do that.
That's fine. Okay, so it's official. Our next movie night will be the 11th of May, and we will be watching the movie Tron, the original from the 80s. And I believe that is on the Internet Archive. That's why we picked it. I found it, and it was on there. I got to find the link again. But I will put that up in the show notes, the link, so you can watch Tron if you don't have a copy of it. You can't get it on streaming or whatever. You can watch it on the Internet Archive. I'll put up a link, and you can just watch it there. And we will discuss that. And you know what? We should it'd be interesting to get a guest on to talk about that. So if anybody is a Tron expert, anyone who's a Tron expert or really likes the movie or something like that, maybe want to come and be a guest on the show, yeah, let us know and have them drop me a line. or Cam, and we'll go with that. All right, Tron on D+. Oh, Tron is on Disney+. That makes sense. I think that's on. Yeah, you can watch it there. But again, I believe we have a link for it, and I'll put it up there, and so everybody can watch for free. You don't have to give your money to anybody. All right. Did I miss anything? Is that it?
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Of course, we need that. We're stuck at our amount of. We're kind of not going anywhere with subscribers. So if you know anybody who likes science fiction, wants to subscribe,
we're dying. We're stagnating, just like sci-fi.
Yeah.
But thanks to all of our loyal viewers who do come in with a great regularity. We appreciate you and all of your fine comments that you've been making.
Yeah, we appreciate it. It's great. Thanks a lot. All right. We'll see you next time. See you on Wednesday or next Sunday. Good night, everyone.
Good night.